Hi, my name is Kevin Thomas, W1DED. Today I have with me Jason Goldsberry, N5NU. You may have him in your log as N5NU backstroke TI2, which I do. I've talked to Jason 2 or 3 times. Not sure if it was during a contest or a POTA, but I know he's in my log and I'm glad to have him there. In fact, I know he was my first Costa Rican contact after I got back involved with ham radio about a year ago. Welcome, Jason.
Hi, thanks for having me on here, Kevin. It's good to finally see you. I've got you in my log 3 different times.
What were those dates since you're probably looking at it?
Yeah, I've got you. Hold on, I just pulled up the wrong log. Of course, I've got a separate log for Costa Rica and a my main U.S. log. I've got you on the 1st of August, the 6th of August, and the 13th of August of 2022.
One of those might have been a contest then. But I do appreciate you being in the log. And tell us, are you in Costa Rica right now or are you in United States?
I'm in Texas right now. In fact, I'm supposed to be in Costa Rica right now. I'll tell you what happened. My mother passed away the 31st of January, while I was in Costa Rica, and so we left the next day for the U.S. and we've been here. I'm the executor of the estate here, and currently in Texas dealing with affairs of the estate.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear that. My condolences.
Thank you.
So I presume you grew up in the Huntsville area?
I grew up outside of Nacogdoches, Texas, in the piney woods of East Texas. Most people, when they think about Texas, they think cactus and horses and flat land and stuff like that. This is tall pine trees and pasture land. There's a lot of state forest and national forest around here. A lot of rivers and stuff. It's not the stereotypical Texas people typically think about.
And did you get involved with ham radio while you were growing up or was it afterwards?
Yes. So my parents were both licensed hams. At first they were CB, or my grandparents were CBers. My dad was a CBer. He became a ham in the 70s, and I grew up around it. I got my novice license when I was 9. I remember listening to cassette tapes, learning Morse code in his old '86 Chevy pickup, driving down the road, and that was my introduction. Was from elementary school. I've been a ham.
Fantastic. So how many years has that been? You look pretty young. So are we talking 20 years maybe?
No, actually, this year will be 31. It's crazy. I just turned 40 just a couple days ago. Actually, this past Saturday. I got licensed when I was 9. So yeah, this year will complete 31 years.
So I know we could take this conversation in a lot of different directions. I'm really into DXing, really enjoy contesting, but Parks on the Air is the thing that really got me excited when I first got back into ham radio back in April of last year. Tell me about Parks on the Air and how you got started.
I will tell you a little bit about it. You can blame Pastor Phil, KI5 Oscar Lima Victor, for it. I know Pastor Phil. He's a pastor in the same network of churches that we're missionary through. We have pastoral ministry and we have amateur radio in common. I found out that he was a ham. That was our really our first connection. He talked about POTA this, POTA that. I was like, I don't know, seemed kind of obscure, you know. This has been several years back now. POTA has grown a lot since then, but that was kind of my first exposure, was hearing about him talk about it a lot. He's a great evangelist for POTA. If POTA needs an evangelist, he's it.
I definitely have KI5 OLV in my log. I don't know how many times I've talked to him, but I can actually picture his QSL card.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure doing we operated together from a park down there last year at some point. Yeah, he's a great guy. Met him, bought some equipment from him. He helped set me up with some other guys, buy some other stuff. So yeah, he is a wonderful guy.
So you're operating portably with Parks on the Air in Costa Rica, I presume.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about that. Are there many parks there?
My whole setup in Costa Rica is portable. So the entire thing fits in a backpack and a canvas bag that I bought from a garage sale. The whole station does. There are actually there's not there's about 30 parks in Costa Rica. There's only one of them that's easy for me to get to from where we are, though.
Which park is that?
It's TI 0025, which is La Sabana is what they call it. It's a big, giant city park, kind of in the middle of the capital city of San Jose. It actually, many years ago, was an airport, was the main airport in Costa Rica before it became a tourist destination. And so they made a park out of it. Actually, I worked you from a park, Kevin, from TI 0015. That's a cool place. That is the Irasu volcano, which is it's about 50 minutes from me. And it's up. I worked you. It's like 11,000 feet. It's way up there. It's not, it's cold. It's not what people think about when you talk about Costa Rica.
So is it your intention to activate more of the parks in Costa Rica, or are you going to stick with those 2 or 3?
I have a couple other parks we activated. I think 0005 and 0009. It was just a 1 day deal. Actually, I'm not sure at this point whether I'm going back to Costa Rica. I was there for language school. The way that it essentially works is you have to complete 3 trimesters, which is a full year. Well, I completed 2 of them, and I'm fluent enough that I'll complete the 3rd one online. We'll actually be leaving here. We're scheduled to leave in May, and we'll be in Chile.
Well, that sounds good. Will you be licensed in Chile to make some ham radio contacts?
Yes. I've operated from Chile before in 2014, 2015, before POTA was a thing. Reciprocal call. And looking forward to being on the air from there.
So before we leave Costa Rica, what was the licensing like there? Was it automatic with the reciprocal agreement, or did you have to go through some sort of process?
Man, that's a fantastic question. So let me kind of unpack this for folks. Having a reciprocal license does not mean you're automatically good to go when you show up. No, it's not. Every country is like the U.S. and Canada. With the U.S. and Canada, you can pass freely in between. When you go to Ontario, you can just say N5NU/VE3. That's not the case with Costa Rica. They have a reciprocal agreement, but you have to fill out the application that they have for you. It's kind of a lengthy application, not just your name, your passport number, your license. But they want to know what kind of equipment you're running, what kind of antenna you're running, where it's going to be, how much dB gain your antenna has, the receptivity of your rig. They want a lot of stuff. It's entirely in Spanish, and if you go to Costa Rica and you get licensed, you need to send that in. I would recommend 2 to 3 months before you get to Costa Rica, and then you receive your licensing. It's good for 90 days at a time, and so it's a little bit of a. You just need to think ahead on it. You need to just be prepared for it, and you'll need to have that license for you to get approval to confirm your contacts through LOTW. They won't do it automatically. So, yes, you can get your license. It's free to do so, but it requires some forethought.
So to be clear, they're only providing that license for 90 days, and then you have to renew every 90 days. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right. So a tourist visa in Costa Rica is only good for 90 days. You either have to leave the country or you have to apply for residency, which is that involves immigration lawyers and all that stuff. It's easier to just leave.
So tell me, why, when you were in Costa Rica, did you not try to set up a permanent home QTH station? Did you just prefer to operate portably?
I lived in a small apartment, about maybe 500 or 600 square feet, in a kind of a shared space. Essentially, imagine like a very informal college dorm. I was a student. I was 20 steps from the language school, and my station was on the floor above the library of the language school. It was just a spare room with a table and a chair in it. And so I just because of being a shared space, it just didn't lend itself to putting a big KT34XA or Opti Beam or something like that up.
Right, makes sense. Well, I find it just fun to get in the car and go to the parks anyway. I enjoy being outside. I do have a base station here at my QTH, but I barely use it. I would much prefer to get outdoor and operate portably. Except now that we're in the middle of winter, it presents its own challenges, and I tend not to unless I'm on vacation. So tell us about Chile. So you'll be probably going there. What was the licensing process like in Chile?
Well, granted, my experience at this point, gosh, is 7 years old. It's much more simple. There is an application process you fill in. It's essentially your name, passport number, license, copy of your license, where you're going to be, and you send it off. It was, I don't know, a month or so. And then I got to Chile. I went and picked it up in person from the National Radio Club in Santiago.
And will you be in Santiago while you're there?
Mhm. Yes, I will be.
So you're pretty familiar with the city then, since you've been there.
Yes, we've been in and out of Chile since 2014.
How long do you think you'll be there?
I'll be there. Man, that's the $1,000,000 question. Settling in a state. We're scheduled to be there until May of 2025.
So it'll be a good contact for many of us back here in the States.
Yes, what's interesting is Chile is active on POTA, but mostly it seems to be 40 meters and maybe some FT8. I haven't worked it yet, so it's not an easy one for folks.
And do you think you'll be able to set up a base station while you're there, or do you know yet?
I think to some degree, yes. Whether it's a tower with a Yagi, I don't know about that. I mean, you're in a city, you have all kinds of restrictions. Will I be able to throw a wire out a window? You betcha.
And what about contesting from Chile? Do you think that might be a possibility?
Yes, what's cool. I have a good friend, Roberto, Charlie Echo 3 Charlie Tango, who lives up in Chicureo, which is just 35 minutes or so from where I am. I did the CQ Worldwide CW contest from CE3 Charlie Tango in 2015, made 4,300 contacts in 48 hours. Yes.
So moving the conversation into contesting, I knew that you enjoyed contesting before this conversation, but 5 minutes ago, I pulled up 3830 scores, and you've been doing some significant contesting for years. This isn't just a once a year enter a contest for a couple hours. You're pretty serious about this.
Yes, I enjoy them. I did both the ARRL DX contest. I was blessed to live about an hour from the N5NU contest station. I would say one of the largest contest stations in the world, and went there for a lot of multi-ops. I learned a lot. A lot of my Elmering came from guys that have been operating for years. They knew all kinds of obscure, not just equipment stuff, but all kinds of obscure propagation things, stuff that's normal. I mean, that's just picked up by experience, or somebody's got to tell you.
So what would your top 3 or 4 tips be for a new contester?
New contester, I would say that the antenna, this is kind of general tips, I would say. The antenna matters. I see this with a lot of POTA guys. Their antenna works great, but it's a high angle radiation antenna. They're running low power. It works great, 800, 1,000 miles out. But the dB gain of your antenna and the angle radiation matter. You're not going to do well in a DX contest with a high radiation antenna and something with not much gain. You need something with some gain, and you need something with a low angle if you're going to do well in DX contests. I started doing contesting to get my code speed up, and it made the jump. So I had passed my 20 word per minute test. This way back in the day when they had the code requirement. I passed it kind of by the skin of my teeth. Contesting helped me make the jump from 20 to 30. That, and just be around guys that experience will help you. And experience is the best teacher on that stuff. So keep at it,
So let's move past the new contester. If you're doing 4,300 QSOs in a contest, that's a pretty quick rate. How are you keeping that rate up?
Well, you're not going to do it sitting 20 words a minute. You've got to run. I remember from Chile, I was running 38 words a minute, and the pileups were so big that I kept increasing it to try to thin them out, and they would not thin out. I could not. I was going at 38. I was working up 42, 44 words a minute, and it was just absolute mayhem. You need good propagation. You need decent antennas, a decent signal. We were running a kilowatt into a 4 or 5 element Yagi, and I was in a desired place.
Do you prefer the CW contests, or I think you do some phone contests also?
I prefer CW. I'm not. I get tired of talking on sideband and just lose the desire at some point.
So you don't do phone contests at all?
I do. I do phone contests, just not as many, not as seriously.
Will you be operating the WPX in a couple weekends?
I will be. I don't know to what extent. I may just dabble around. I may go to a friend's place that has some antennas and get on and work a couple thousand. Who knows? I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet.
So give me your thoughts on ham radio in general. The ranks of ham radio operators have, I wouldn't say thinned out, but we aren't growing the hobby. Why do you think that is, and what would change that?
It's interesting. I feel like an old guy here. Ham radio is vastly different than when I got licensed in the early 90s. I remember working guys that were on ships in World War II, and these guys picked up the code from the war. They used it. That was just a lot of those old guys. Man, they built their own rig. They homebrewed a lot of their antennas. I think that radio has become, I don't know, I think it's become more technical in a different way. So it's not technical as far as building rigs and stuff like that. You can't, average guy can't go out and just build a Yaesu or something like that, right? But it's different as far as like the technical aspect. You have the inner working of computer stuff. You have the inner working of radio. You have the networking side of it. I see a lot of guys that are from the networking world in the computer side getting into radio because they're meshing. So I think it's not, I think it's just a different, it's just evolved. You have digital modes like FT8, FT4. That's accounts for a lot of the growth. That is a far cry from guys who learn code on a ship. Those are not the same type of operators, not the same type of personality. It's a totally different mindset as far as that goes. And those two kinds of guys don't necessarily even understand each other.
I think it's an interesting observation. I grew up with a ham radio father who built our Heathkit HW101. He built the Heathkit amplifier. Everything was built by him. And you don't hear about that much anymore. However, just fixing a logging software program when it crashes is at times a technical challenge, and that's why the reflector groups are so busy with people asking questions. So you're right. We've shifted from building to I wouldn't say maintaining, but learning all these other software technical issues and solving problems there.
You end up with guys like me that are not actually very good at either of them. They're somewhat technical, but they're not experts, and they're somewhat good at computers, but not an expert. And so what is it? Jack of all trades, master of none. Right?
So talk to me about Parks on the Air. I've just been, as I've already mentioned, I've been thrilled about getting involved with that. I'm excited about it. And I also know that it's very new to ham radio, relatively new to ham radio. Where would you like to see Parks on the Air go in the future?
Yeah, I have. I'm really enjoying it. I have to date, I think 89 activations, about 8,000 contacts or so. Worked, I don't know, close to 900 parks or so. I'm not one of the top dogs, or don't necessarily have a desire for it. Even don't have the time. Don't have the time for it. I work. As far as where do I want to see it go, I'm very happy with just kind of the informality of it. I was actually just last night uploading some of my information to the IOTA page, which is kind of like the original Parks on the Air, right? It's the Islands on the Air program from Great Britain that's been around for decades. Wondering if I qualified for any of their awards. And they have something interesting. They have various awards to where once you work half of their entities, you get a plaque. And once you work, I think it's like 3/4 of them, there's a trophy or something. I could be wrong on these numbers here. But I think I like that POTA does the awards. You can just print them off. Once you work 10 parks, boom, you got an award. That's great encouragement for a new ham. But I want to see something. I like this new event that they have. It's the contest that's not a contest, right? It's caused such an uproar. I think that if you're going to do an event like this that's contest-like, I think you need to kind of go all in with it or not. Which means you start dealing with multipliers, you start dealing with categories, and start to deal with maybe points per contact. Maybe you get more points if you work some guy in New Zealand. That said, you can't make everybody happy. Half the crowd complains, hates contests, wish they would go away. Half the crowd lives for them. One a year is not going to kill people. That's fine. I don't want to see 3 or 4 a year. It's just not, it wouldn't be good for POTA. It wouldn't be smart for them. As far as direction, man, I'm happy with the way it's growing. I will say that I've seen the culture of just judging from the POTA Facebook group, the culture has changed. It was kind of the gentleman's club of ham radio for a while. And because it's become very conflict oriented, that whatever you do, well, you're doing it wrong. There's a better way to do it. Whatever, you know what I mean? It's just you start at order and work the disorder. So I don't know if that answers your questions. It's just kind of some shotgun thoughts from the hip.
No, it does answer my question. And you're referring to the plaque event that you're right is not a contest, but it looks like a contest. Do you plan on participating in that?
I will. There's no way I'll ever win it from Chile. I'm too far. I'm too far from the main populace, and there's no extra points. There's not really incentive given for DX stations to work it. Guys like EC1R or some of the British guys, M0TTQ, some of ZL1AQD. I just worked him. There's not really a lot of advantage for those guys to get on and do something special. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So what I'm hearing is that you will participate, and you probably would like to see some of those rules evolve over time.
It would be in tandem with increasing DX participation in POTA. So if you want to help increase that participation from overseas, the event has to lend itself to it.
Well, Jason, I appreciate you spending some time with me today. It's good to see you in person and not just the call sign over the air. And I hope that we'll make some other POTA contacts in the future and maybe even some contest connections, although I probably won't be your guy at 42 words per minute with CW.
I know that's not my normal speed. I normally, if I'm CQing around, I CQ around 28 or so. So maybe 26. But yeah, I appreciate you having me on. I hope this was of value to you and the listeners that you have. Thank you for doing this podcast. I love a good POTA visit.
Well, thank you, Jason. I've been talking to N5NU, Jason Goldsberry. He's home in Texas right now, but soon will probably be in Chile. Look for him on the POTA spotting page or maybe in a contest. Work on your CW speed.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.